Hi there, and welcome to the second lecture of the course Building a Profitable Quiz Funnel Design. It's your host, Elvis Okenwa, and I am really excited to be taking you through this journey. Now, in our last lesson, we talked about the psychology behind quizzes. We also looked at how you can create a quiz hook or how you can find your perfect quiz hook for your business. And I also showed you some tips on how you can create a high converting quiz. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at how you can create your quiz funnel, okay? Now we're going to be touching on how you can develop outcomes and offers for your quizzes that actually converts, okay? We're going to be showing you how you can write engaging quiz questions and how you can set all this up on LeadQuizzes, all right? Now let me share my screen with you quickly and jump into the presentation. Okay, now first we're going to look at developing outcome and offers that convert. Okay, now let's first look at the qualities of a great outcome. What are the qualities of a great quiz outcome or quiz result? Now the first quality is that it educates those currently looking for a solution to their problem. All right, now bear in mind that the only reason or the major reason that people take your quiz in the first place is that they hope to attain some measure of self-discovery upon completion of that quiz. All right, so either they want to know something about their situation or their business. At the end of the quiz, they want to have that measure of self-discovery. Okay, and the result page in your quiz is a place where you can educate them and show them that you're an expert in the subject matter we're talking about. Okay, now we all know that first impression matters. So make sure you show this expertise in your result page. That way the lead knows that, okay, any content I receive from this business will be educative, it will be informative, and it can be trusted. All right? Now, this is the first step where you can start building the trust with your leads, that you're an expert in what you're talking about in your business. Okay? So your result, your outcomes, so your quiz results must educate those currently looking for solution to their problems. Now, the second is your outcome must be in line with the quiz title. Okay, so if you have a quiz title, let's say, what is your metabolism type? Take this quiz to find out, for example. Now, the outcome of that quiz should have the metabolism types. So upon completion, what I hope to find is what my metabolism type is based on the quiz title. What is your metabolism type? Okay. Are you at risk of thyroid disease? Upon completion of that quiz, what I want to see in my result page is if I am at risk or I'm not at risk of thyroid disease. Okay, so the outcome or the results of your quiz has to be in line with the quiz title. All right, you don't want to give a totally different outcome from what you have, what you're saying in the quiz title. It has to be in line. All right. Now, the third quality of a great quiz outcome is that it has to be share-worthy. All right. Now, what that means is when I take the quiz, I get my results. I should want to share it with my social network. All right. Now, in our previous lesson, we spoke about the psychology of quizzes. And one of those psychologies was recognition and self-esteem, if you can remember. Right? So when the result outcome is educative, informative, interesting, and is personalized, everyone wants to share that with their social network. Okay, so it has to be share-worthy. All right, that makes it a great outcome if it is share-worthy. If I get my outcome, I want to share with my social network, that means it is very share-worthy. Okay, now the third is it has to have a call to action. Okay, so your quiz outcome has to contain a call to action. There should be always a call to action to inform your leads what to do next. Okay, now the call to action can lead to an offer page. It can lead directly to your website. So learn more. It can lead to a blog post. It can lead to a calendar schedule. So depending on what the next step of your funnel is, you want to have a call to action to show your audience what to do next on the outcome page. All right, so you don't want to just have an outcome page that upon reading it, I don't know what to do next. All right, so even if it's as simple as to learn more, click the button below and you send them to your website, it should have a call to action. Okay, now let's look at offers. All right, we just spoke about outcomes and the qualities of great outcomes. Let's look at offers. Let's look at the psychology behind why a compelling offer is necessary. All right, now when you're just starting out a business, even without an offer, you're definitely going to have those people that are early adopters, and are going to be ready to buy your products immediately. But the goal is you want to attract more people, colder traffic into your sales funnel, and some of the blockers or barriers that you're going to get in attracting cold traffic into your sales funnel are the following listed. So it's likely that they have never heard of you or your business. It's likely that they are not educated about your product. They have no idea, they know nothing about your product. It's likely that they don't even understand the value of your offer. Now this is why you need a compelling offer to overcome these barriers. Okay, now a compelling offer can be in many ways, it can come in many shapes and sizes, but it needs to have three main components in order for it to perform as best as possible. And we're going to discuss these components in a second, right? Now, the first component of a compelling offer is the offer itself or the bonus. People love bonuses, and that's just a fact. Now, think about how many times that you have been swayed to buy an additional product that has been bundled up with another offer, another product. For example, we have a case study, Anna Maria Skincare. They have an offer that for anyone that completes the quiz and opts in with the name and email address, they were offered a sample skincare kit for only $10 with free shipping, with a free ebook, and a $10 coupon towards the next purchase. All right, so they had 4 different offers upon completion of their quiz. Now with this, they were able to generate over 20,000 leads in less than 2 months because of this offer. Now, another example is Gut Riders. After someone completes the quiz and opts in the name and email, they were taken to various offers. All right. So there was a free shipping, discounted product purchase in there. The sales process was able to convert 3%. 3%. All right. So they generated 75,000 leads and were able to convert 3% of that. Picture that. So out of 75,000 leads, off the back of a quiz funnel, off the back of the offer they had, they were able to sell about 2,300 units of products. Okay, so the offer itself is very important. All right. Okay, now the next component of a compelling offer is risk reversal. Okay, now those people that don't know about your brand or your products are going to be very wary. How do we know that you can offer what you promised? How do we know that your business is as good as you say it? How do we know your product or service can achieve what I want it to do? So in order to overcome these objections, your compelling offer should have some kind of risk reversal. All right, now this might be a free trial like we do with LeadQuizzes. It might be a money back guarantee after a certain period of time. Either way, it needs to provide a sense of security to new customers, so they know that their money isn't just going to disappear into thin air. Okay, so you can have risk reversal, try risk-free for 30 days, or if you're try risk-free for 30 days. If you're not completely satisfied, we'll give you back your money, no questions asked. That can be a risk reversal, or 1 year limited warranty, 14 days free trial, return within 90 days and get a full refund. All of these options, or all of these examples are listed, make the purchase seems less risky. okay, for the person buying the product, So they also instill more confidence in the product. So if a company is, for example, willing to guarantee their product for 5 to 10 years, come on, it must be pretty good, And if they're willing to give you back your money after 90 days of you using it, if you're not satisfied, there's basically no risk in there. All right. And that way, your audience or your leads will be compelled to want to purchase from you because you added the risk reversal to your compelling offer. All right. Now, the final component is urgency and scarcity. Okay. Now, it can be as simple as adding an expiration date to your compelling offer, and this will kick people to action. No one wants to miss out on something that is a very good deal. And simply by you adding a ticking countdown clock or timer to your quiz, it's enough to make people act. All right. Now, Gotwriter, in this example I have in here, they did this so well. They have 80% discount off retail price, and they have the timer in there. So you have less than 3 minutes to get that off, or you'll have less than 5 minutes or 2 hours or 1 hour, depending on what your preference is, But this countdown timer makes people want to perform the action right away. Without it, you're going to have someone saying, okay, I'll check on it tomorrow. I'll come back tomorrow and see the offer may still be there. But if the offer says in the next 2 hours, you get 80% discount on your next purchase, anyone in there will want to take advantage of that offer because it's time limited. Okay, so the offer itself, risk reversal, urgency, and scarcity. Those are the great components of an offer if you wanted to perform very well, if you wanted to convert. Okay, now let's look at some tips on how you can write engaging quiz questions. That's our next topic. Okay, now when you're writing your quiz questions, pay attention to the following. 1, pay attention to the number of quiz questions that you have. Now, one of the factors that can make or break your quiz success is how many questions there are in your quiz. Although quizzes are very, very fun, everyone loves doing quizzes, an average quiz taker won't have more than a few minutes to complete your quiz. So always keep that in mind. Okay, now if you're creating, for example, a trivia quiz, you need to make sure, of course, that there are at least enough questions to allow some kind of ranking or meaningful score-based results, But that being said, the minimum number of questions that we recommend for trivia quizzes is 10, but it could easily go as much as 20. On the other hand, if you're writing a quiz that is aimed at generating leads for your businesses, be careful, because the more questions you have in there, it can make quiz taker give up before they even complete the quiz. So the entire goal is you want them to go through the quiz questions. You want them to fill in the form field to leave their information before they get your result. But in the case where you have too much questions, they may get bored, they may get tired, of answering the questions, and the drop-off would be more. All right. So from our own research at LeadQuizzes, we suggest that you aim for at least 8 to 10 questions in your quiz. As a matter of fact, 90% of quizzes that are performing best on our platform have at least 10 questions. All right. So pay attention, very important. Pay attention to the number of questions that you have in your quiz. All right. The next is pay attention to the content of your quiz questions. All right. So when writing out your quiz questions, keep your question on topic. Asking a quiz taker about their, let's say, favorite breakfast food in a quiz titled, "What kind of home will make you the happiest?" It's bizarre, because it's deceiving. What does favorite food has to do with what kind of home will make you the happiest? So make sure they get exactly what you promised them once they opt in to take the quiz. Okay. Now, also, whenever possible, try to make your questions a bit witty and humorous. Humor is a good element of great quiz questions because it engages your participants and makes them complete the quiz. All right. Humor is also important because it shows that you have a personality, and that your company have a unique brand voice, let's say. So a little bit of humor can go a long way in building engagement and trust. Okay, so add a bit of humor, add a bit of weight to your quiz questions, right? Then also make your quiz questions interesting. Okay, make your quiz questions interesting. Now, I give you 2 examples. If you saw a quiz question that says, what's the one item you cannot go without every day? Or if you were on a stranded island, which of these would you take? Now, I don't know about you, but the second question sounds more interesting. Of those 2, it sounds more interesting. So the more unusual, the more unexpected and remarkable your questions are, the more engaging they will be for the quiz taker. Now, also, don't try to be smart with your questions. Now, I don't mean that in a traditional way. I mean, if you intentionally form your question so that you're trying to trick your audience, you are the one playing a losing game. Okay? Now, the participants will spend so much time racking their brain around the question instead of enjoying your quiz, and the chances of them dropping out before they complete the quiz increases significantly. All right, so great quiz questions hit the sweet spot where they are neither too hard or too easy. All right, so like I said, don't try to be smart, make your questions interesting, try as much as possible to add a bit of wittiness and humor to your quiz questions, and always keep your questions on topic. All right, now the third one is pay attention to the question length. Pay attention to the question length. Now there's one thing that is shared by majority of high performing quizzes that I created in the past, or as well as quizzes that our users are using at the moment. The questions and the answers are fairly short. So short questions are practical because it only takes a matter of seconds for your quiz taker to go through them, right? So have in mind that your quiz taker are always bombarded with content all day long. And if you can kind of save them time in reading your question, it will be really appreciated, in the sense that they will complete it, fill in the form, and they get to see your result. So the question is, how do you go about making your questions shorter? Okay, now there are a couple of hints I'm going to give you. Now, the first is, instead of writing a quiz question, create a statement with answers like rarely, sometimes, never, always, frequently, true or false, answer pairs. All right, so rather than having a quiz question, have a statement. So, for example, I have sufficient quality time spent with my family. True, false, sometimes. All right, now, and that great insight from our best performing quizzes here at LeadQuizzes is that they have identical answers to all the quiz questions. So as in this example, there's multiple advantage to this approach. Now, first of all, you don't have to spend, your quiz taker don't have to spend so much time trying to, figure out, okay, I answered question 1, the next question have totally different answer combinations, what to answer, and also it helps you save time thinking about different answers. So when you have answers like true, false, sometimes, for all the questions, even before you create a question, you already know that the answer options are going to be true, false, sometimes. So it helps you save time in creating your questions. It helps you save time in thinking about the different answers you want to use for the questions. All right. Now, it will also create momentum for your quiz taker. and they'll know what to expect after a couple of questions. So if I answer question number 1 and the options are true, false sometimes, I answer question 2, it has the same answer options. Now I know that question 3 we have the same answer options, and that way I will gain momentum. All right. And that way, the tendency of your quiz takers finishing your quiz and leaving their information in the case you want to use this for lead generation, it increases significantly. All right. Now, the fourth is pay attention to the type of language you use in the quiz questions. You know, the type of language you use depends on several factors, obviously. So who is your target audience? How much do you know about your target audience? How much do they know about the quiz subject matter? What effect are you trying to produce? Okay, so those 4 factors determine the language of your questions. You know, do you know your target audience? Who are your target audience? How much do you know about the quiz subject matter? You know, what are you trying to achieve? Ultimately, the one piece of advice all creators should stick to is spare your words. You know, don't use overly complicated terms that your audience won't be able to understand. Remember that the goal is to make the quiz taker complete your quiz, not for them to think how smart you are. You know, so as a quiz creator, you're also in the shoes of, let's say, a copywriter. And good copywriters know, simplicity sells. All right, so spare your words. Okay, now from previous examples, the language, let me see. So the fourth one is quiz questions with image answers. There's a fourth one, quiz questions with image answers. All right, now there's a saying that picture is worth 1,000 words. In the case of quizzes, images can make a very huge difference. And the facts are there, all right? Now, we all know that 65% of people are, let's say, visual learners, and over 90% of the information that comes to the brain is visual. On top of that, presentation with visual elements are about 43% more persuasive. So if you look at all the major BuzzFeeds that are performing best, they have one common trait. They include image answers to the quiz questions. All right, now the ability for you to use image answers opens up a world of possibilities for your quiz question. You can avoid having lengthy answers by presenting it as an image. Also, if you can't think of a way to make your question humorous, you can always attach a funny pic as an answer. Okay, so always think about how you can have answer options for your quiz questions. Now, lastly, we're going to quickly take a look at how you can set all this up on LeadQuizzes platform. All right, now this is just going to be a quick run through. There's going to be an additional video showing you how you can navigate the LeadQuizzes platform from start to finish. But in this lesson, I'm just going to give you a quick run through on how you can do that. All right. Now, the first is add your quiz start page. All right. So if you remember, we spoke about how you can find your quiz hook. Once you have your quiz hook or quiz title, this is where you add it. You add to the start page. Should I keep renting or buy my first home? Get guidance from the short quiz start. So add the start page. The next is you add the outcomes. All right. So you determine, we just spoke about how you can create your effective outcomes and offers. Once you have that dialed in, you add it to the outcome page. If you have 3 outcomes, you add 3 of them. If you have 4 outcomes, you add the 4 of them. All right. So you add your outcomes, you can add a call to action. We have a button functionality that you can use to add the button label, and you add the URL to where you want your audience to be redirected to. So if you remember, I told you very important that your outcome has a call to action. All right, and LeadQuizzes will provide you that functionality that you can automatically add a call to action button on your outcome page. Now, once you have your quiz title, your outcome dialed in, the next step is to add the quiz questions. Okay, now don't forget I mentioned you can add text questions or you can have image questions. But the more image questions that you can have in your quiz, the more performing it's going to be. Okay, we just spoke about that a couple of seconds ago. So add your quiz questions. You can have text, image, or a combination of both of them on the same quiz. Now, finally, you want to add your lead capture form. Okay, now you add your lead capture form, those information that you want to get from your audience, be it name, email address, phone number, you name it. This is where you add it. You add your lead capture form, but bear in mind, the more fields you have in your form, the less your conversions. So if you just want to get the information to follow up via emails, you can simply ask for the name and the email address. If you have a call center team that calls them, you can take it a step further to ask for the phone number. All right. So once you have your title, questions, outcome dialed in, and the offer, you add your lead capture form, you have basically created your quiz. All right. Now, in our next lesson, we're going to be talking about quiz funnel traffic strategy. Okay, I'm going to show you how you can create an evergreen quiz funnel traffic system, whereby you continuously be generating leads with your quizzes without paid social media ads. We're also going to show you other advertising platform that works so well and how you can put your quiz out there for people to see and take it and so on. All right, so see you in our next lecture. Have a great day.